Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. This is the second live stream today. We had a fantastic live stream earlier today and a pretty good video on Trump picking DeSantis. He will pick DeSantis. I'm almost certain of that. It's pretty obvious. And ladies and gentlemen, Jim Jordan is in the news. He wants to defund the Federal Bureau of Investigation, just like Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because unfortunately, although we need, in my view, we need the Federal Bureau of Investigation, we do. Unfortunately, they've become an extension of the Democratic Party. So we need the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but everybody on the planet, even Democrats, know that the Bureau has sided with them on pretty much every topic. So now you have Gus, hello. Eric, hello. D'Artagnan, everybody here. Susan, hello. Kevin, Dave, hello. Now you have a situation, and to my super chat, I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very, very much. D'Artagnan starting it off. Thank you so very much. Thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Thank you, D'Artagnan. Your support is greatly appreciated. Let's get started. I think that it's pretty obvious after about the past 6 years of this this overt bias against Trump. You have text messages, you have investigations accusing an incoming president of being a foreign operative that's never taken place before. And they say, well, there was a reason for it. There was no reason other than a government agency going after an incoming presidential candidate being wrong on everything. We spent $70 to $100 billion on intelligence. We would have known immediately if Trump was an actual operative. But it's called public relations, advertising, marketing, and politics. The Bureau has become political. It never used to be so overtly political. But anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get started. This is Jim Jordan. This is Jim Jordan, ladies and gentlemen, and let's get started.
Mr. Gaetz to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Discloses to Republicans. Chair now recognizes himself for an opening statement. November 18th, 2021, an FBI whistleblower discloses to Republicans on the House Judiciary that the FBI created a threat tag for parents voicing is from only the conservative side of the political spectrum. This is only a sampling. In my time in Congress, I have never seen anything like this. Dozens and dozens of whistleblowers, FBI agents coming to us talking about what's going on, the political nature at the Justice Department. Not Jim Jordan saying this, not Republicans, not conservatives, good, brave FBI agents who are willing to come forward and give us the truth.
This could be leveling the playing field for impeachment. Okay, so this could be exactly what needs to take place before impeachment. So, oh Lord, serious? Hold on one second. So you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where there are whistleblowers. Daniel, hello. Paul Bartlett, hello. Doing my time, hello. There are whistleblowers. They're telling Congress exactly what's going on. And when they impeach Biden because of Hunter's laptop, which shows that clear felonies, pay-to-play schemes, it's within those emails. How can you use your influence on the company's behalf? At least everyone within American politics will understand that there are people within the Bureau who are speaking out. Let's continue.
And this is just the FBI. Americans have concerns about the double standard at the Department of Justice. Americans have concerns about the Disinformation Governance Board that the Department of Homeland Security tried to form. Americans have concerns about the ATF and what they're doing to the Second Amendment. And of course, they have concerns about the IRS and the thousands of new agents who are coming to that organization. And finally, there are concerns about what we've learned in the Twitter files, where big government and big tech colluded to shape and mold the narrative and to suppress information and censor Americans. Over the course of our work in this committee, we expect to hear from government officials and experts like we have here today. We expect to hear from Americans who've been targeted by their government. We expect to hear from people in the media. And we expect to hear from the FBI agents who have come forward as whistleblowers. We think many of them will sit for transcribed interviews, as one did on Tuesday. And we believe several of them will come and testify in open hearings.
You have a situation where we're going to have testimony. Migration 2, liberate the swamp. Hello, thank you. You have a situation where you're going to have Federal Bureau of Investigation agents testifying, testifying before Congress. Now, here, Jim Jordan, GOP, laying groundwork for using the power of the purse against the Bureau. They want to defund the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They could do so in Congress. So, if you watch here, this is PBS, and this is, you have Republicans like Chuck Grassley, who's awesome, stating the same things. They went after Trump, and they did so utilizing government agencies. So here, we'll listen to Chuck Grassley and then Ron Johnson. And these are the initial hearings 3 weeks ago. This is PBS.
Your ranking members, we hadn't forgot about what the triad of partisan media, FBI and Democrats and leadership did to us. So we don't stop. We did what any congressional investigator worth their salt would do. We gathered even more records to prove them all wrong. We acquired authentic bank records that substantiated findings of our previous 2 reports. They financially linked Hunter Biden and James Biden to entities and individuals connected with the communist Chinese regime. We also acquired business records with Hunter and James Biden's signatures alongside those same Chinese nationals. How were they supposed to be paid? According to bank records, there were wires from companies linked to the communist regime.
This would have already led to indictments if it was Trump or Kushner. There is no equivalent, or Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. There is no equivalent. Like, he tried to. They had deals with other countries. Like, he did not work with companies linked to the intel agencies of other countries. Hunter and Joe did, or at least people around Hunter did. And so that's the thing. They have the receipts. It's only a matter of time. I think they're laying the groundwork for impeachment. Not immediately impeaching Biden, but they're laying the groundwork because impeachment is going to be a huge mess for Democrats. It's going to be a huge, huge mess. Because you will see bank records, you will see financial disclosures, you will see money going from very shady, corrupt companies to Hunter and Joe and everyone around them. They talk about George Santos, but it was Biden who lied about not knowing anything about Hunter and his business associates. Gus, hello. They talk about George Santos, but Biden routinely lied about his credentials, about his accomplishments, about, exactly, much worse than Watergate, I agree. I mean, if Santos lied, he learned it from Biden. He thought he could get away with lying because Biden lied so much over the years. Biden was even accused of plagiarizing a speech like 30, 40 years ago from a British parliament member of parliament. But let's continue.
In 3 floor speeches, we made those bank records public and asked this question to our partisan detractors, the same ones that I mentioned throughout my remarks, and maybe a lot of others. Are these official bank records Russian disinformation? We also shared hundreds of pages of bank records with U.S. Attorney Weiss. He failed to respond. Now, as our investigation continued, whistleblowers approached my office with allegations that the FBI created an assessment in August 2020, the same month that the FBI briefed me and Senator Johnson. According to these whistleblowers, that assessment was used by FBI headquarters to improperly discredit negative Hunter Biden information as, you might expect, disinformation.
So this is why people don't trust media. They don't trust the government, and they don't trust specific agencies because these agencies have sided with the Democratic Party. You cannot have tax dollars going to government agencies that side with one political party. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's not something that Americans will accept. That is not something that we pay. We're all paying taxes: property tax, income tax, state income tax, business tax, federal income tax. We're all taxed. The government, the federal income tax, should not go to government agencies that side with the Democratic Party. That is not right or just. Exactly, Sean, exactly. And so you have Chuck Grassley, and nobody can accuse Chuck Grassley of just being a Trump Republican. I mean, he is pretty much because he's on the right side of history. You have to understand a little something about history to realize that if you vote for Trump, you're definitely on the right side of history. And you're voting for Trump not because of the reasons Democrats despise him. You're voting for Trump because he had a great foreign policy, great economic policy. We didn't have the problems we have today. And his opponents were actually committing crimes. So that's the issue here. Let's continue.
As a result, this scheme allegedly caused investigative activity to entirely cease. It's been further alleged to me that in September 2020, the same month Senator Johnson and I released our first report, those FBI headquarters personnel began placing their analysis of the credibility of reporting related to the Biden family in what I've been told is a restricted access sub-file. Further allegations to my office involved FBI personnel at the Washington field office who improperly ordered information to be closed by the FBI related to Hunter Biden's potential criminal conduct in October 2020, just before the election, even though it was verified or it was verifiable.
The truth about the Democratic Party makes you vote Trump. Really, that is the truth. The truth. And to my super chat, thank you so very much, D'Artagnan. Everybody here, thank you. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Your super chat support's greatly appreciated. The truth about the Democratic Party, the truth about Hunter or Joe, makes a person vote for Trump. And that's the situation here. That is the reality of the situation. The reality is that without the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, Stephen Colbert, The Atlantic, CNN, MSNBC, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Time Magazine, New Yorker, New York Magazine, Twitter, the way it used to be, run by fanatical liberal Democrats who would just do anything possible to silence dissent on any topic. Democrats have no chance. Do you understand that, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think people understand the aggregate bird's eye view here. Without every possible advantage, and they don't have these advantages now. They might defund the Bureau. You have populist Republicans who now control Congress, the House of Representatives, the power of the purse. Budgets start in the House. They might very well cut the Bureau's budget. The Bureau is an extension of the Democratic Party. Now, we need the FBI. We have the most wanted list. They do a lot of good things in terms of protecting the country. It's true. Okay? We do need the FBI. Okay? But you have to also ask yourself, well, why are they siding with a political party? And if Democrats didn't have every possible advantage, could they even compete with Trump? Okay? They hid the truth about Hunter because it would have harmed Biden, not because of national security. And they always hide behind national security because they have these government agencies that say it's national security because they're siding with Democrats.
Other whistleblower disclosures to my office make clear that the FBI has within its possession very significant, impactful, and voluminous evidence with respect to potential criminal conduct by Hunter and James Biden. These disclosures.
If the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this is 28 minutes into the PBS hearing, the federal government hearing. If the Federal Bureau of Investigation, if they have evidence of criminal wrongdoing, okay, and they're holding back, that could be a criminal act by the specific officials. Could you imagine if they had specific criminal evidence against Trump instead of a dossier they used? You literally have to fabricate things with Trump because the truth about Democrats makes you vote Trump. Think about that. If they're hiding information about criminal activity, could you imagine what impeachment will be like? They won't be able to. And now they're going after the whistleblowers. Like, oh, yeah, when it was Trump, oh, my God, every person who came out of the government against Trump was lionized and championed and lauded as this hero. Well, let's continue.
Also allege that Joe Biden was aware of Hunter Biden's business arrangements and may have been involved in some of them. We still aren't sure what's been done with this information. The FBI's track record doesn't create much faith.
So they have also information that Joe was aware. And Joe, our current president, is implicated within specific emails. But you'd have to read the New York Post and Daily Mail reporting. You'd have to actually read the New York Post reporting, which we couldn't 2 years ago. So there you go.
That the information is going to be followed up on. It's clear to me that the Justice Department and the FBI are suffering from a political infection that, if it's not defeated, will cause the American people no longer to trust these storied institutions. It will also threaten the American way of life. Unfortunately, what you've heard from me, this story of government abuse and political treachery, is scarier than fiction. It really happened. But, Mr. Chairman, your committee here, so assembled, has an opportunity to help us write the last chapter in this real-life drama. You must relentlessly pursue the facts and the evidence. Senator Johnson and I will do the same and willing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Grassley. Senator Johnson.
So you have a situation where this is really serious. Really serious. This is far more serious than a Steele dossier or any accusation leveled at Trump. And media doesn't want any part of this. Democrats don't want any part of this. Okay? Democrats and media don't want any part of this because it reveals the truth. They don't want the truth. The truth is not just hysteria about Trump and how mean he is. Trump is the least authoritarian president that we've had. The least. The least. He had zero ability to influence the Bureau. He had zero ability to influence intel agencies. How is Trump an authoritarian when media and intel agencies and government agencies went after him? When Hollywood and media and newspapers and cable stations all went after him? How on earth is he an authoritarian? He's the least powerful, least influential authoritarian of all time. Usually authoritarians utilize their power. High tones, hello. Love trucks, hello. Kristen, hello. Usually authoritarians utilize Jay, hello. SC side, hello. Sean. Usually authoritarians utilize government against the people, against adversaries. When did Trump utilize government for anything against his adversaries? He's the one who was tormented by the government. High tones, hello again. Let's continue. Ron Johnson also has a very, very good opening statement.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Plaskett, members of the Select Committee. Thank you for inviting me to testify about my personal knowledge of and experience with federal agencies being weaponized against U.S. citizens. Senator Grassley has just described the most egregious examples undertaken by multiple actors and agencies to undermine and sabotage our joint investigations. But to begin, let me be clear. Throughout my testimony, I am not talking about the men and women in government who conduct themselves with integrity and patriotism. But at the outset, it is important to recognize.
If you ask me, we need the Federal Bureau of Investigation and intel agencies, but we don't need them in domestic politics. It's very simple. Growing up, you would only hear of them when they were trying to justify a military action. Other than that, they weren't on CNN or they weren't there weren't stories about them in the Times or the Washington Post. Intel chiefs used to be like referees or offensive linemen in football. Like, if you hear the name, then they did something wrong. Clary, hello. Let's continue.
Recognize corrupt individuals within federal agencies that I am talking about are not acting alone. They operate as vital partners of the left-wing political movement that includes most members of the mainstream media, big tech social media giants, global institutions and foundations, Democrat Party operatives, and elected officials. As the Twitter files reveal, these actors work in concert.
They work in concert because if there was an objective media, a media like 2012 or even 2014, 2016, things changed. We crossed the Rubicon in 2016. If they don't level every single thing they have against Trump, they have no chance against Trump. If they don't continually accuse him of things he never did, if they don't have government agencies, if they don't have all of Hollywood, if they don't have every single publication, every state publication, if journalists don't become Democratic operatives, they don't have a chance. Trump only gets negative media coverage. It's virtually 100% negative. And still almost half the electorate will always side with Trump. Think about that for a second. That's the reason why you have these government agencies. They all know that if they don't continually accuse Trump of everything under the sun and investigate him and give media, the endless, give media enough suspicion of Trump. If they don't have every conceivable advantage against him, then they don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. Let's continue.
To defeat their political opponents and promote left-wing ideology and government control over our lives. My eyes began opening to this reality with the disclosure of how the Obama administration weaponized the IRS to harass Tea Party groups by denying them marks of a Russian information operation, unquote. That letter itself was an information operation that interfered with and impacted the 2020 federal health agencies have not been honest or and reveal the truth. Senator Grassley and I will do everything we can to encourage bipartisan oversight in the Senate and stand ready to assist your efforts in any way that we can. Thank you.
So, this is a precursor to impeachment, okay? It is a precursor to impeachment. They're setting the groundwork for impeachment, okay? And that's what this is all about. I'm interested to see the rebuttal from the Democrat here. Let's listen to this.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. We look forward to your report. We hope that is coming shortly. We now recognize Representative Raskin for his testimony.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Plaskett, dear colleagues, our framers were Enlightenment thinkers who wrote us an Enlightenment Constitution. They wanted government to operate on the basis of facts.
The Steele dossier is not fact. The facts within the New York Post reporting 2 years ago were silenced and censored. But let's continue.
Science and common sense, not ignorance and superstition. They wanted America to usher in an age of reason. With the separation of powers,
How on earth is accusing Trump of things he never did an age of reason? This is the most illogical and irrational moment in recent American history. Just because people don't like Trump, you have agencies, government agencies, Democrats, media accusing him of everything under the sun, and none of it's true. That's why they haven't indicted him. Kevin, hello. The freak, he has uh God bless him. He has cancer. God bless him. I wish him only the best. I wish him a speedy recovery. I wish him a speedy recovery. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have cancer, God bless you, speedy recovery, and you get better soon. So I wish Congressman Raskin only the speediest recovery and health, you know, and hopefully he gets better very, very soon and lives a long, long, and happy life. Let's continue.
The framers constitutionalized Newton's third law of motion, checking every action with an equal and opposite reaction. And Congress in Article 1 was given the central role of legislating and making progress for our people. The oversight function is not specified in Article 1, but the Supreme Court has always said that it's implied, something necessary and proper for the legislative function. As Madison famously said, those who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power that knowledge gives.
But you have James Madison, who wrote the Bill of Rights, and they would not be okay with government agencies siding with a political party. That's the thing here. Everybody knows that these government agencies are siding with Democrats, okay? Because you don't have the same things taking place with Democrats you do with Trump. Let's continue. You know what? Let's just go ahead and love Tulsi Gabbard. Love Tulsi Gabbard. Jonathan Turley is awesome. All right, let's see here.
Respectful conversation about that. What's interesting about the Twitter files is that they establish what could be viewed as an agency. Now, as I go through a lot of the cases in the past, courts have really struggled with this. At what point does a private party become an agent of the government? Cases like Page and others say that you can have that. Even if, by the way, the private agent turns down some requests, you can have that. And I go through the various tests that apply. I also go through three things that are established. One, this may be the largest censorship system in the history of our country. Twitter alone reaches
The largest censorship system in the history of our country. We had greater access to information before the internet. In my view, we had much greater access to information because you had more newspapers. The newspapers generally didn't. They had a liberal or conservative leaning, but they weren't extensions of political parties. You could go to the library, you could read newspapers, you could and there were you had access to congressional testimony, okay? But you could find out the truth about, books were written about, scandals and controversies, and they weren't filtered through sensibilities of morally superior liberal Democrats or Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld Republicans. Once the internet started becoming really, really big and influential in people's lives, then you have the ability to censor things, really censor discussion. I mean, honestly, up until 2016, everything was fine. 2017, everything was fine. 2018, 2019. Then you had on 2018, 2019, you had a greater push to restrict information. In the past couple of years, it's just been unbelievable. That's why, like, nobody really cared about the segment I did on Twitter. I don't think Twitter is going to be, hello. Um, thank you. I don't think Twitter is gonna. I just read a comment. I don't think Twitter is gonna be around in 5 years. I really don't. But I mean, check out that segment prior to this one.
450 million people. They're 15th on social media. Companies like Facebook dwarf them in terms of their size. It is a censorship system. The ACLU has made clear that censorship can be both in government or private form, and it certainly can be in a government and private type of coordination. Second, this is beyond what agencies usually do. This was not the FBI responding to criticism of the FBI. It was generally policing this thing called disinformation. And eventually they tagged things like jokes. They tagged just a ridiculous scope of information that they believed could be removed. And then third, what we have here on these, in terms of what the government's doing, is what we've seen before. Even if you assume that this does not create an agency relationship, it's wrong. It's wrong for the government to be in the business of silencing citizens. It's wrong.
So, okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. TG, I appreciate that. Thank you. So Jonathan Turley is awesome. He is awesome. Let's see about
For stating the gravity of the situation and the question before us. Mr. Williams, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Plaskett, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you very much for inviting me to testify today. My name is Elliot Williams, and over the course of 15 years, I had the honor of serving in all three branches of our government. Across that time, I worked as both a career prosecutor and a senior appointee, as both a rank-and-file employee and in senior management, and in both Republican and Democratic administrations. For a major portion of my time in government, I served in roles tied directly to the relationship between the executive and legislative branches of government. I served as counsel to the Senate Judiciary Committee across the building, or across the courtyard, and helped run legislative affairs at both the United States Department of Justice and the United States Customs and Immigration Enforcement, or ICE. And I know that I'm here today speaking in my personal capacity and not on behalf of any employer. Now, having sat in the seats of the very staff behind you alongside some of the very people who are still here today, as well as in the role of the executive branch employee or official responding to your requests, I can say that each institution's interests are critically important to creating a healthy, functioning democracy. When they collect significant public interest in the Justice Department's efforts to protect those materials. Likewise, Congress has a very long history of engaging in responsible oversight, and bipartisan oversight at that matter, of the executive branch. This means reaching accommodations that have regularly included narrowing requests for information over the course of the day. Needless to say, thank you again for inviting me to testify, and I look
to the Miami division. I can be
All right, I'm not sure if he was a whistleblower or I'm not exactly sure. I think the next person definitely is a whistleblower. We'll see. Hold on one second.
Ms. Parker, hit that button. There you go. Thank you.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Plaskett, and members of the subcommittee, I would like to thank you for inviting me to come and respectfully speak to you today. The people of this country deserve the right to have faith in those sworn to protect. Faith is the foundation of hope and
So, okay, so this is 3 hours of the hearing. on the weaponization of the federal government. So let's just see here. Let's look at Matt Gaetz.
Floridians in the Miami field office. Ms. Parker, if we got the decision-making more out of Washington, D.C. and into the hands of our field offices where we have so many patriotic and brave FBI officials, do you think we'd be able to escape this political capture that quite literally drove you out of the Bureau?
I think that's absolutely critical at this point in our American history.
Freak, thank you. Love your work. If I fall asleep, just means peace. The Freak, thank you. I know it's a little late, and this isn't exactly the most interesting. It's pretty interesting. But, I mean, we are eventually moving towards some really amazing things, I think, politically this year. But, Kevin, thank you. All right, so let's see. The Freak, thank you. Kevin, hello. All right, let's go ahead and... Oh, most replayed. Okay, you are right.
And I want to let those people know that
Congressman
I've
Massey.
come to this city for 10 years with one basic premise, which is this is the best country on the planet, the best country that's ever been. It's deeply flawed, but we owe it to our children to fix it. And that's why I sought to be on this committee. And that's why I thank you, Mr. Baker, and you, Ms. Parker, for being here, and why I invite others who are watching to please come to us. Find somebody on this dais that you trust.
So I apologize. The gentleman that had spoken prior to the lady who spoke, he is also a whistleblower, and she is a whistleblower. I just didn't really, I didn't know from the testimony, so I apologize. Basically, everybody here has been invited to talk about the censorship and the bias that exists.
And tell us your story so we can fix it. And speaking of fixing things, I want to talk about the FISA program, which, Mr. Baker, you've talked about in your testimony, particularly 702 parts of it that we are going to re-examine and reauthorize potentially. On the surface of it, it sounds like a practical legal concept that you would collect information on foreign targets who don't have constitutional rights, and you might incidentally collect information that pertains to U.S. citizens who do have constitutional rights. But because it was collected incidentally and not in pursuit of that U.S. person, oh, we'll go look at this data, you know, we'll put some policies and procedures, but the Constitution does not apply here because it was incidentally collected. Well, if the incidental collection were small enough, that might be a valid concept. The problem is we've collected millions of exabytes of data. When what you're collecting incidentally becomes the entire universe, I think you might need a warrant to go look at that information.
Mm-hmm. So people who wanted to spy on Trump did so legally. They were able to do so legally. And it's like they were able to do so. Well, we weren't trying to go after Trump. We were just actually trying to, investigate people who weren't citizens. Oh, what's that? Every conversation that Trump or Trump officials ever had with somebody who wasn't a citizen is being collected. Oh, wow. That's bizarre. That's bizarre. I guess we can go ahead and go after Trump now. So that is basically what Thomas Massey is saying.
And when the number of searches that is done on U.S. persons by the FBI, I'm not talking about CIA, NSA. We know in 2020 it was over 1 million searches into this phishing, into this database where you don't need a warrant. And then in 2021 it went from 1 million to over 3 million searches. This is problematic, and I hope we look at this going forward. Mr. Baker, you mentioned something in your written testimony I don't think you got a chance to speak about here today. Can you tell us what reverse targeting is and
Yes.
why we might want to be concerned about that?
Yes, and it's not well understood, but in a nutshell, here it is. The CIA and the NSA are forbidden to target Americans, as you know. They often, and as you said, the numbers are in vast numbers where
So this is very interesting. I think finally we've gotten to something really, really interesting. Let's continue.
they pick up Americans most of the time just by incidental collection, and the Americans are not really doing anything wrong. If they pick up information that an American is breaking the law or is somehow a threat to national security, those other agencies, the CIA and the NSA, are supposed to provide that information to the FBI for appropriate action, and action can't be taken on it. But in reverse targeting, which John Brennan, during the Russian collusion thing, acknowledged they were doing, they would target a foreign person who was close to an American they were really interested in. And then when they picked up that information on the Americans, aha, we got it in incidental collection, which that was all phony and false. It wasn't incidental collection at all. That is another thing that you in the Congress, on both sides of the aisle, can address and correct. You can institute penalties for them pulling this monkey business like that.
So that's how they engaged in the surveillance of Trump. I mean, these people are very smart, and they did so legally. They do all of these things legally. It's not like they didn't do these things legally, or most of these things. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am running out of steam, but thank you so very much, everybody. I will be back tomorrow in the morning, and then, of course, I'll have a live stream. I would say a live stream tomorrow at around 4 p.m. So be here for the live stream at about 4 p.m., people. But I will have videos up in the morning. So definitely be here in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. Be here tomorrow morning, ladies and gentlemen. And Kevin Duder, thank you. Clary, thank you. Kevin the Freak, everybody here. Eric, everybody here, thank you. And I will see you tomorrow. Okay, everybody? Thank